I'm John Q, and this is my review of my latest and seventh 3D printer. It's the anycubic upgraded kossel Delta pulley version, which I personally purchased from 3D Printers Bay in June. So I've been using it for several months now. I've not been sponsored in any way. I used my own money to purchase this. What's been upgraded is the heated bed is included with a build tack-like surface, but it's much harder than build tack in my experience. It has an integrated 300-watt power supply, which you need in order to be able to power the heated bed, instead of the separate power brick. It has a magnetically attached bed leveling probe, which attaches to the head to do bed leveling and Z-axis offset measurements. The other thing that's upgraded is the base and the top deltas came pre-assembled with the majority of components already installed. The only thing I really had to install were the uprights and install the effector on the uprights. And I had to install the extruder up here on the side. Now I made some other mods of my own. Thanks to Neary's, I've installed this strain relief or tensioner to keep the cable out of the way while printing. The skates appear to be similar to user designs that were published online as upgrades to the original kossel. And the cooling fan down here is also an improved design from the original. The good part is it worked immediately after completing the assembly, and the bed leveling and Z-offset measurements worked fine. It's also a very fast printer. I've used Simplify 3D software for many years now, and the Simplify 3D estimate was beaten by 25%, where normally it takes longer than the Simplify 3D estimate to print something. In vase mode, it's even faster, 33% faster than the Simplify 3D estimate. Most prints look really good, like these skulls. This was printed with the maximum 0.35 millimeter layer height and took 8 hours to print. The original Simplify 3D estimate was it would take 10.5 hours. So here again, it was 25% faster. And the print, even at the coarse resolution that I used here, the print looks really good. The Maker's Muse tolerance test was free all the way down to 0.2, although it's a little tight. The 0.15, well, sorry, that one's stuck tight. But all the way down to 0.2, it's freed up. I printed PLA and ABS and PETG fine with this. ABS, the heat bed got up to 100 degrees C without any problem. I tried TPU, but the stock extruder jams on it. Running Thomson Latterer's safety tests, the heat bed min temp on this, by disconnecting the sensor, it failed to prevent starting of the bed heating. On the max temp test, where you short the sensor, the reading was 358 degrees and it refused to heat the bed, declaring max temp. On the hot end, the min temp passed temp passed, although it heated the bed first before it tried to heat the hot end, and as soon as it did, it declared min temp and shut down. On the hot end max temp, it also passed, declared max temp failure. On thermal runaway, disconnecting the sensor during printing, it declared a min temp, which is the wrong failure. It should have declared a thermal runaway. So basically, thermal runaway is not implemented. Only min temp and max temp are, sort of. At finish of printing, the hot end and bed temperatures reset to 0 for cool down, and the effector moves back to the home position, which is the top of the columns. Precision is good, but not great. For example, here's the Fab 365 Robot R. And although it printed and all the limbs are free, it will not snap together. Unlike the Robot R's printed on my CR10 or my favorite printer, my Prusa. So the precision is good, but it's not great. What's it good for? It's good for printing tall things, like the 3 skulls here, very fast. But not for multiple parts that have to be assembled. What's the bad thing about it? Well, there was one thing that was a problem. Here in the skate is an adjustment for tension on the roller wheel. The instructions don't mention anything about adjusting this tension in order to tighten the wheels on the rail. But in order to get precision out of it at all, you have to tighten this down so that the roller bites into the aluminum without slipping. And the instructions did not include that information. In other print test results, overhangs printed fine, bridging was good, vertical post showed a cooling problem, and that's because this is blowing from one side to the other. So vertical posts away from the cooling fan showed evidence of filament blowing away from the cooling fan. Now there is a cure for this online, is other people have put designs online to replace this with a cooling duct that more closely surrounds the hot end, but I haven't printed that. I've just been using what came with the printer. One other thing is the copy of Cura that came on the memory card did not install. It was a bad copy, but I was able to download a copy from anycubic support site. But I also already had Simplify 3D and used that settings to print all of these samples. Okay, so what's one of the limitations? The limitation is the display. It has 4 lines of 20 characters. So if you have file names that the first 20 characters are the same on 2 different files, you aren't going to be able to tell them apart because the file names do not scroll horizontally. You just see the first 20 characters. So keep your file name short. Now I printed several add-ons, one of which, of course, are the covers here for the stepper motors, and I printed end plates. for the display. I found this design online, printed it and installed it so it makes it easier to insert an SD card. Is it worth the money? Yes, at least it was for me. So I can demonstrate the operation of a Delta style printer and print tall figures very quickly. The firmware needs some work and better documentation. The firmware is unable to store any modifications that you enter. So anytime you go in and you mess around with it, when you power it off and cycle the power back on, you have to start all over. I understand that Marlin 1.1.9 supports this upgraded kossel with its bed leveling probe, so I may try and install that software in the future and see if that alleviates some of the complaints I've had.